Time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catafamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio today. Back with Countywide for you. Coconino National Forest Volunteer Coordinator Paul Dawson in studio. Welcome to studio. Yeah. And we are here to talk today about the Kachina Peaks Avalanche Center. The website is kachinapeaks.org, so that's a website you want to keep hold of, especially if you're going to go. When they sent me a press release talking about just kind of the usual yearly do's and don'ts of the backcountry up there by San Francisco Peaks and the Kachina Peaks and stuff like that, I was like, you know what? We've never had anybody actually come in and talk about the dangers of being in the backcountry. We talk about it all the time, Paul, for the spring and summer months for the hiking. Sure. But we really don't talk too much about the winter. Yeah. And then I started doing stories about, okay, we've got snow play coming up, and we know there's going to be an influx of people coming to play in the snow, so you do the typical don't park along the highways, interstate, things like that. Yeah. Pick up your sled trash and all that. How's that coming anyways? Have they picked up their sled trash this year?
It's getting a little bit better.
Is the message getting out there?
A little bit. I think it's improving.
It is improving?
Yeah. We haven't seen quite as much. There's always stuff, but we haven't seen quite as much.
All right. But it got me thinking that those of us who don't live with the snow and go play in the snow, you should know a few things about what it is you're going to be walking into. And we've got all the hunts going on. I was on vacation for a week, I told you that, and I know when I came back, we had an elderly couple that got stuck on a Forest Service road. They wound up getting out of their vehicle and buried in the snow, and they both perished out in the snow. And then you were telling me there's quite a few hunts going on with the elk and deer and whatnot, and a lot of hunters are getting stuck in the backcountry as well.
Yeah, I think most of the elk hunts are done now, but yeah, for quite a while around the Thanksgiving storm, and I think a lot of things, RVs and things are still stuck out from that storm. The snow is really stuck around. It stayed pretty cold in Flagstaff, and so a lot of those roads are still buried in snow.
It has stayed very cold this winter for sure. Let me ask you the first thing. Kachina Peaks Avalanche Center, tell me a little bit about it. What's it all about?
So it is what we in the Forest Service call a Type 2 Avalanche Center, and they're a nonprofit group that works with us doing awesome work. They started about probably a little over 20 years ago now, and they've continued to just ramp up and get better every year. And they put out avalanche summaries on a weekly basis, trying to communicate. We try and get them out on Fridays, trying to communicate mostly to that kind of weekend crowd, because that's when we see most folks out, about the dangers coming up for the weekend and avalanche problems that they might see.
Now, some people might think, avalanches. How prevalent could they possibly be in Arizona? But
they are very prevalent in Arizona. We have 77 named avalanche paths on the peaks, which is fairly surprising for Arizona. I was surprised when I moved down here to find that, and pleasantly surprised to see how good the snow was down here as well, and how much we get. But yeah, there's a lot of risk associated with that on the peaks. Anytime that there's steep slopes and snow, you have the potential for an avalanche.
So you say 77 paths?
Yeah.
So you guys have marked out 77 different locations on the peaks where avalanches do occur.
Yeah,
most definitely do occur.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's someone actually studied them. I want to say it was Lee Dexter was one of the people, worked at NAU for quite a while in the 80s, and he went and studied and figured out all the kind of frequent paths and started naming them. I think it started somewhere in it was 66, and they have added another 11, and there probably are more out there. There's some, in 1996 we had a fatality, an avalanche fatality, the only one that we've had on the peaks, and that actually expanded an avalanche path fairly extensively, taking out hundreds of trees that were hundreds of years old, and so it had been quite a while since that area had seen avalanches. But yeah, they're very prevalent on the peaks.
Okay, and it's a yearly thing. It's not like I guess if we don't have a very big winter, maybe not so, but
yeah,
this winter's been shaping up pretty good. I think we're twice as much snow as we normally have in the Flagstaff area right now.
Yeah.
So that's got to mean something up on the peaks.
Oh, yeah. We've actually already had some avalanches reported on the peaks, and Telemark Slide Path was one of our bigger ones off of Fremont Peak. Already haven't had an avalanche in it a couple weeks ago with that storm cycle. The snowpack right now is weaker, and so if we see more snow in the future, there's potential for more avalanches.
Okay, so we get a pile up of snow during a cold storm. Things start to warm up. That probably loosens things up a little bit. Things start to shift a little bit, and the next thing you know, doesn't take much before. I mean, avalanches. How big are they? You said like a tornado before we started here.
Yeah. Like
a tornado, there are different categories of avalanche. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So avalanches can be categorized in what's called it's R and a D rating, and so it's a relative to slide path being the R, and so there's based on topography, a path can be different sizes, and so some of them can be really large and connected, and some of them can be really small chutes. And so with that, you can give it a rating on how big did it go relative to what it could have gone, and then the D rating is the destructive force, and so a D1 could be something that could just bury you or myself, which would be problematic in and of itself, and then something like a D3 could actually just is categorized as being able to destroy a house. I think a D2 is one that could bury a car, and then onward, and a D5 would be able to destroy a multi-story building.
Anything that's path, basically, huh?
Exactly.
That's not a force.
It's a lot of force, indeed. Yeah, and it can be an absolute amazing amount of snow when one of those goes off. The one that went off recently in what we call Telemark Slide Path off of Fremont was probably a R3, D3, and the debris pile from it was probably 20 feet deep.
No kidding. So, I mean, we're talking about trees, rocks, all kinds of stuff that comes down. Because you think about it, it's snow. I mean, how hard can it be?
Yeah, and
but
actually,
it's heavy.
Yeah, and it actually turns into more of when you get into like kind of more the physics of avalanches, it actually acts more like a liquid than it does like a solid, and so it starts moving more like a liquid and can be pretty wild all of a sudden, and then it sets up like cement afterwards. So it goes from a solid to a liquid back to a solid pretty quickly.
Wow.
And so it can be incredibly hard when it finally comes to a rest, because it had been moving so much that it can add energy and a little bit of warmth to it, and so it acts more like a liquid, and then finally freezes when it gets to the bottom, and so it can be incredibly hard to dig anyone out or find anyone in that. So
yeah, because once it's on top of you, you can scream all you want. Odds of you being hurt are pretty slim.
Yeah, you can't dig yourself out, which is kind of a misconception that a lot of people think. You can, I could just, it's snow, right? So it's powdery, and I can just kind of claw my way out. Most of the time you're absolutely locked in because of those kind of physical properties of it turning back to a solid.
Which of course makes breathing difficult to do as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it doesn't disperse. It's actually the CO2 is the main thing that gets people after they're buried, is that your CO2 dispersal doesn't go anywhere, and so you actually often
you run out of air.
Yeah,
you run out of air.
Yeah.
Have you seen an avalanche?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He says, oh yeah. I want to see one. I would love to see one from a distance and see just what it does.
Oh, there's tons
you
of
see them on TV and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Movies and everything else. They play them up. I think they're even on some commercials right now.
Yeah. Sure.
But I think to actually be there and see it coming down off a mountain and its force. Would probably give you a lot of respect for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like a tornado or flooding like in '93 on the river here. It's just it's just an amazing sight to see all of this moving with this water. I picture when you talk about the avalanche kind of turning liquid, I picture the floodwaters coming by the station here with all these uprooted trees and boulders, and I mean you could hear all that turbulence going on underneath the water. So that's inside that snow that you're going to be possibly grabbed up in. Taken into as well. Yeah,
I actually spent a little bit of time in Colorado last year, and they had a pretty wild avalanche cycle last year where they had multiple R5, D5s in Colorado, which for a while folks didn't think there was a possibility outside of Alaska to have an R5, D5. They had multiple in Colorado last year, and I went through some of the debris piles, and they were absolutely incredible. They were 80 feet tall with like hundreds of trees, and we're talking like trees almost as big as this table.
Sure.
It just absolutely gigantic, and you're like, well, that tree is probably 400 years old and had been there for quite a while, and it's pretty wild to you would not want to be in the path of that.
Right. I think we've got a point across. The avalanche, there's something we need to take seriously. So let's take our first break. We'll come back and talk a little bit about some of the stuff we should have with us if we do indeed go into the backcountry. Paul Dawson from Coconino National Forest is in studio today. The website is KachinaPeaks.org. That'll take you to Kachina Peaks Avalanche Center. Stick around, Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Start your journey toward better health with Ageless Touches Massage Therapy. Licensed massage therapist Richard Stevens uses the latest and best equipment to relieve scar tissue, electronic smog, and tinnitus. Ageless Touches does everything they can to work your issues down to the bone. Improve your path to better health with Ageless Touches Massage.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in Uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family-friendly, open 11:30 to 9, late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Countywide. Paul Dawson with the Coconino National Forest is in studio today. We're talking about avalanches and just being careful in the backcountry during the winter season. Kachina Peaks Avalanche Center is a good resource for information about do's and don'ts of going in the backcountry. KachinaPeaks.org. It's a 501c3, right, Paul? That's what you told me.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
They're
so it's all volunteers.
Yeah, predominantly.
Okay.
They've gotten a little bit of grant funding in the last couple of years to help pay for some folks to go out in the backcountry, because days in the backcountry can be really long and arduous, trying to do snow study to help support their summary work.
So are they like a visitor center where I pull up and I go in there and I can say, hey, you know, I know it's Saturday, but maybe they're open Saturday? Or
we actually don't. They don't have a physical kind of location.
They
or
don't.
office.
Okay, they are on call to just respond to disaster?
They're mostly kind of do the forecasting summary work, and so they go out during the week working on, they do snow study and work on snow pits, look at the weather, look at weather resources, because avalanches are kind of comprised of what's the snowpack doing, what's the weather doing, and then if you think about it with yourself involved, you know, what's the terrain, so steepness of slopes and that sort of thing. So it's really about kind of what's the snow doing, and the snow changes over time and forms layers, and so there's kind of a history, much like in geology, there's a history of what the snow and what the weather's been up to, and so you get these different layers that form, and so we go do snow study pits and do snow stability tests and figure out you know, how is that reacting with new snow and the weather changes and what's coming, and then they write that up as a summary, often publishing on Fridays, trying to get the weekend crowd, and then they talk about the different types of avalanche problems that one might see over the weekend.
Okay, so I went to the website this morning, and the most recent update was January 3rd, which would have been Friday.
Correct.
And it talked about, you know, for the next few days, human-triggered avalanches near and above tree line may be possible, where winds have created new slabs. But there's a lot of information here as to what you should or shouldn't do while you're out there, or be prepared for this is the kind of setting you're going to be in when you head out there. So I would guess if you're going to go to the backcountry up by the San Francisco Peaks, the best thing to do first is go to KachinaPeaks.org and take a look at the most recent report and go there. Because I mean, you've got skiers. You've got cross-country skiers, snowshoers. I know snowshoeing became popular a couple of years ago as well. Is it popular?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We see a lot of folks that I feel like increasingly want to go summit Humphreys in the winter now. It's a little bit less trafficked, but because of that, there's some kind of preparedness issues that come with folks being underprepared. I've seen a lot of folks actually out there without snowshoes or any sort of kind of snow travel device trying to go up Humphreys Trail, having expectations that they're going to be able to accomplish that.
We hear that with a lot of the search and rescue folks that come in. They're always surprised how people show up in Sedona, they drop their luggage off, they get a little bottle of water, and off they go into the desert to go on a 3-hour hike, and thinking, well, we're just going to go for a walk. But I don't think we're quite prepared or know that there's certain things we should. Let's talk about the backcountry. We say it like it. What is the backcountry? The backcountry is all over the place. Most of us have to just go out the back door, and you're in the backcountry. Yeah. So what's it like in the peaks, though?
Well, the peaks, in the winter can be super variable. Depends on the winter, how much snow there is, when the last time it snowed, and so the snow can be either hard and frozen because it's been getting a lot of melt freeze with the sun, and it's been warmer in the days, and then it's frozen in the morning, or it can be super deep snow and powdery because it just snowed recently, or the wind could have moved all the snow to different locations. The wind can actually transport snow 10 times as much as what falls out of the sky. And so if you get, a foot of snow, it can actually transport, 10 feet of snow to a certain location, so on leeward slopes, so the opposite side of a ridge that the wind is blowing, and so it's very variable, and so having a lot of gear and knowledge and being able to see what the weather's been up to, read the snowpack summary, and kind of understand that is important. It's really about that kind of preparedness, plan ahead and prepare.
So what I see one day doesn't necessarily a week later in that same exact location, it's known for being windy up around the peaks. The mountain just draws weather right to it. So what I see today in one location may look completely different in a week from now if it's windy, depending on what the conditions are. But it could change a lot. Let's talk about this. Okay, so I'm going to head out, and you just mentioned that some folks show up and maybe they're in their tennis shoes or something, and they're heading out to go on a snow hike, which I can't fathom that. But okay, so that does happen. I can imagine that. I guess I can. What are some of the things I should have? It's one thing to go to a snow play area with a sled and your kids and you're going to go sliding. Right. It's another thing when you're going to go to the base of the San Francisco Peaks and go walking around down there. That's a whole different world. What are some of the things I should definitely have with me before I even decide to go do something like that?
So you were asking about the backcountry a little bit and kind of what is it, and it's it's a spot that's farther from your car, farther from your home, right? And so you just have whatever's with you, and you're not going to be able to get easy access to anything else. And so being prepared and reading that weather is important. So we often call it the 10 essentials, and that's something that folks talk about a lot in the summer, which is extra clothing, food, water, maybe some shelter, first aid kit, lighter, compass, matches, map being super, super important. Can't tell you how many folks I've run into trying to hike Humphreys Trail in the winter that don't have a map, haven't really looked up a map, or kind of expecting it to be a very well kind of curated, maintained trail. Especially in the wintertime in the wilderness areas, we're not really out there. A lot of folks generally aren't out there, and so it's really route finding is super important with all that. And then in the winter as well is having that snow travel device. So whether that, depending on the weather, kind of we talked about, there's pretty big variables there. So maybe that if it's been warmer, maybe the snow is compacted and settled a bit, and so it's not that deep, and maybe you just need kind of traction devices, or maybe you need snowshoes or backcountry skis or cross-country skis to be able to sit on top of powder. Otherwise, you're going to just be kind of wallowing in snow and not being able to move very far.
Is it called a PLB, a personal? No, wait. What's the beacon?
Oh, a beacon shovel
the
probe.
thing you pull when you're like, okay, I give up. I'm not going to make it out of here by myself.
Yeah, so that's like now these days there's a spot device is kind of one of the main things, or an in-reach device where you're able to, get a satellite message out for emergencies. And so those are super useful as well. Cell phones are great, but if they get cold in the winter, they can die. So having, a lot of folks have maps on their cell phones, so that can be problematic with the cold, as they can die. Or expecting that you're going to have cell phone service everywhere is also problematic. And so those having a device that is satellite accessible is useful, but just being prepared and maybe deciding that today's not the day that we decide to go all the way to the top. If you're having issues, kind of just making wise decisions in the backcountry.
Well, common sense, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. They don't sell that, All right, gotta take another break. KachinaPeaks.org is a great website to go to for information about it. If you're going to go play in the snow in the backcountry, go to KachinaPeaks.org. Coconino National Forest Volunteer Coordinator Paul Dawson in studio. Stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Feng Shui artistry, the oldest form of development planning, today known as the art of placement. For 26 years, master Feng Shui educator, practitioner, artist, and author Caroline Patrick Bournet has used ancient rules of environmental, physical, and spiritual harmony to support clients' health, knowledge, creativity, and success. In mapping your home, you'll understand yourself. Better living is the gift of a lifetime. Change your life one room at a time. Schedule your Home Therapy 101 consultation today.
Show your customers how much they matter to you. Follow up with a real card in just 60 seconds with Send Out Cards. Send Out Cards makes it easy for busy professionals to leave a memorable impression. Stay in touch with a simple one-step process from your phone or computer to their mailbox. Call Judy today at 928-202-2557. That's 928-202-2557.
Been hearing about the crazy benefits of CBD? Find out how CBD can help you at Sedona's #1 resource, CBD Sedona. Come in for a free consultation and let our trained medical staff help you find the perfect product for you. Pain-relieving salves, full-spectrum oils, honeys, teas, cookies, and even CBD for pets. Ready to feel fantastic? Come on by CBD Sedona today.
Metaphysics. What does it mean? It's a branch of philosophy, literally beyond the science of matter. Sedona's University of Metaphysics studies the ultimate nature of existence, reality, and experience. Join 14,000 graduates in over 120 countries, helping others in counseling, coaching, ministry, and much more. The University of Metaphysics is here to serve the best in you so you can serve the best in others. universityofmetaphysics.com.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a couple minutes left in the program. A couple things I want to hit. We talked about forest roads at the very beginning of the show, Paul, but we haven't talked about them again. We do have a lot of folks that have stuff stuck out in the forest right now, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a good idea to be out there.
No. Most of our roads are closed right now, at least on the Flagstaff Ranger District and the Coconino National Forest. We've had winter since Thanksgiving, and it's been cold and snow stuck around. And as we got more snow, we closed more roads. We start with our higher elevation roads first and then kind of work down from there, depending on conditions and otherwise.
But the chances of me driving back in one of these roads, going around the barricades that are blocking them, because we have a problem with that around here.
Yeah.
If I go around that and I go back in the forest and I get stuck, my truck and my trailer, you guys are not necessarily going to come out and help me pull that out of there.
No, we're not at all. First off, you should, respect barricades. Road damage occurs a lot in that, wet environment, snowy environment. Our budget has been getting slowly smaller over the years. And so with that, we have a challenge just keeping our roads open and maintained. But we're not able to help folks out, and we're not going to be going out to help you dig out your RV.
It may be spring before you get it out of there.
It could be, Yeah, especially with the way that this winter's been going.
Yeah, this winter's been a good one. And then just for me alone, if I decide I want to go to the San Francisco Peaks, we talked about the things you should have with you. That sounds like a lot of stuff to have, but I would be really glad to have those things with me. Anything else out there that I should be thinking about that you can think of that we have not covered yet about the backcountry? I mean, we've kind of punch list a lot of different things.
Yeah. So, I mean, if folks are going into avalanche terrain, we haven't really talked about the avalanche beacon. Shovel and probe are kind of the kit for avalanche terrain, and so if we were going out together, we would both need to have one of those, and you actually wear this beacon, and it transmits on a frequency that all beacons transmit on, and so there's two functions that you can, you put it in track, and so we would both be in track, and then if for some reason you were caught and trapped in an avalanche, I would then turn mine into search mode, and I would then wander around trying to find a signal, and it would slowly get decreasing in number ideally, and you'd work in a pattern to try and get you super, as close as to you as I could, because you're not going to be able to find someone under a pile of snow. And then you actually have to get a big probe out, which is like a tent pole, and put it together, and then just start poking at the snow and hoping that, oh, there you are, and I poke you, and then I have to start digging. And you only have about 15 minutes to do those things. And so you got to be trained in it, and the Kachina Peaks Avalanche Center actually teaches level 1 courses. There was one this last weekend. There'll be one in about 2 weeks. They're pretty regular. So if folks are backcountry skiers or snowshoers and are interested in being out in the backcountry, I would encourage them to go take a course with the Kachina Peaks Avalanche Center.
Time. Paul Dawson, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming down to the show. Coconino National Forest Volunteer Coordinator Paul Dawson. Website is kachinapeaks.org. That's today's Countywide. As always, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.